Hello guys, how are you? I'm Carlos Lopez de Lara. Today I'm going to be talking about the Ouroboros protocol, which is the underlying protocol in the Cardano blockchain. Ouroboros is a proof of stake algorithm as opposed to a proof of work as it is in Bitcoin or in Ethereum. And it works in a very different fashion. But first of all, a quick reminder or a quick comment. If you are interested, please don't take it from me. You should come and take a look on the IOHK site and dive into the papers section. Here they have put all the papers they have produced, and here we have Ouroboros Genesis, which is the paper that we are going to be discussing today. And let's go right into it, okay? So, okay, I have prepared this kind of a blueprint for you guys. I hope it works to clarify some doubts and have a clear understanding on how this protocol works. First things first, we have to talk about time, which is important. And in the Cardano blockchain, time is divided in epochs, which is the time between these vertical bars. And every epoch is divided into slots. One and only one block is to be produced at every slot, and time begins at the Genesis block. Okay? For the sake of this presentation, we are going to assume we are here in the current epoch, and we are just about to produce the first block of that epoch, which corresponds to the first slot of current epoch. Okay? But before we can produce a block, we need, or any stakeholder needs to register to three functionalities. Number one, we need to register to a global clock, which is a functionality that will allow us to know the exact time in the network, which is a challenge because it is a decentralized network, right? Which is the correct time? Okay, we are going to register into it, and we will know exactly at what epoch and at what slot the blockchain is currently in. And once you are registered to that global clock, you need to register to a global random oracle, which is a beautiful functionality that will be producing the randomness for the slot leader election process. Okay? So once you are registered there, you become operational, meaning that you are ready to produce a block. And then you register to the network, which means that you have synchronized with the blockchain, meaning that you have a full copy of the blockchain in your node, and you are ready to become a slot leader if you are elected. And so once you have done this and you have initialized, you are ready to produce a new block. And how this process works is beautiful. So at every slot, we have what is called a staking procedure, okay? So remember, we are here and we are about to produce the block for this slot. And this process happens at every single slot. So it happens every 20 seconds. We have this lottery. And it works like this. First, every stakeholder needs to ask the very important question. Am I a slot leader? And how does he ask this question? Well, he evaluates locally in his node a verifiable random function, VRF, and this function takes a couple of arguments. Number one, it takes a value that comes from a random oracle. We're going to see in a minute what it is. And it takes the index of the current slot. Okay? And it takes into account the stake distribution. But as we need the stake distribution, we cannot use the stake distribution as it was in the previous block, or even here, because these slots, these blocks are very fresh, they are very new, they might be changing, they do not have enough confirmations yet, so that the stake distribution here is not that reliable, okay? So what we are going to do is that we are going to go 2 epochs back in time, and we are going to take a look into the last block of 2 epochs ago, and we are going to take a snapshot, and we are going to see that stake distribution. We're going to take it for the execution of this variable random function. Okay? As we mentioned, we need then a value that comes from the random oracle. What the random oracle is? Okay. We are going to take some values that come from the previous epoch. At every block on the previous epoch, there is embedded a random value. We are going to see in a minute where this random value comes from, but for now, let's assume there is a random value embedded in every one of these blocks. Okay? So the random oracle, what it's going to do is going to take every value here, well, not exactly every, but the first 2/3 of the slots of the previous epoch, and is going to make a hashing of all these values together, and that hashing is going to become the seed, the random seed for the execution of this lottery, and this variable random function will produce a couple of outputs. Number one, it will produce a random value that is going to be compared against a certain threshold that is dependent on the stake distribution. So if that random value is below that threshold, then the stakeholder becomes a slot leader, and he gets a proof of it, or a certificate, that he is going to embed in the block he produces for that all other nodes in the network to verify that that particular block indeed comes from a legitimate slot leader of that particular slot. Okay, so this is important. So once you are elected a slot leader, you are the one that is responsible for performing the slot leader duties, which are, as normal, collect the transactions for this slot, sign them with a secret key, and just before you broadcast it, you have to include the proof and the random value V. And take a look. We have that value embedded here, which is exactly the value that we took before to execute the random oracle function, right? So this is the beauty of the entire Ouroboros protocol, because it is not relying on an external source of randomness, it is fitting itself with that randomness, so that at every new epoch we have fresh and new randomness included in the system that is going to be used to the staking procedure of the following slots. So it is an impressive mechanism that does not rely or does not depend on any external source, but instead it depends on the blockchain itself, making it a very decentralized process. And this is why the Ouroboros Genesis, the Ouroboros protocols are named like that, Ouroboros. If you remember, Ouroboros is the snake that eats its own tail, so that feeds itself. So this is why this mechanism resembles that Ouroboros, because it feeds itself with new randomness at every new epoch. Okay? So before you broadcast the new block, here, we have to produce also a new secret key, because the secret key that you are using to sign this block is going to be eventually known. So we need a new secret key that will be used the next time you are elected a slot leader. This is known as the key evolving signature. So the public key remains the same, but the secret key is changed at every step, and the previous one is erased, so that there is no chance that the previous blocks can be forged by using the already known secret key, right? And after that, you do broadcast the new block, and you have produced that new block, and we'll start the staking procedure again with that very same question. Am I a slot leader? And we are gonna run this thing again, and there will be another slot leader. And with that, we have finished this process, we have produced a new block, and we are done. Eventually, it will be deep in the blockchain, and it will become immutable, and we are all happy with that, right? But we have to talk a little bit about the rewards scheme. But just a quick note, the entire protocol, or at least this functionality, depends on stakeholders being online most of the time. More precisely, it depends on the majority of the stakeholders being online at any given time. But that might be an unrealistic assumption, because, you know, people have problems with the internet, they just come and go, they forget sometimes to run the protocol, so we cannot really trust that everybody is going to be running the protocol, and the protocol needs to have that certainty. So this is why the Ouroboros protocols consider the figure of the stakeholders' delegation, meaning that stakeholders can delegate their duties as slot leaders to a third party that will be running the protocol on their behalf. These third parties are known as stake pools. And a very important notice here is that you do not delegate your actual tokens. What you delegate is your rights to participate in the protocol and your obligation to participate in the protocol, for that matter. So it is going to be very easy, a couple of clicks in your wallet, and you delegate your rights to participate in the stake pool, and the stake pool is going to act on your behalf, meaning that they are going to be running this, asking this question every time, to every slot on your behalf, so that when you are elected a slot leader, they are going to run the slot leader duties for you, and in exchange they are going to split the reward with you. They are going to have a share of the rewards. So, but they guarantee that the protocol is running at any given time. Okay. So let's go to the rewards scheme, and in Cardano, you can go to the staking pool website, and you're gonna see this information. In Cardano, the rewards are epoch-based, as opposed to block-based that they are in Ethereum, or in Bitcoin. In those protocols, every single block gets their reward. But here, what we are going to do is we are going to collect all the rewards from the entire epoch and put them in a pool together in a bag. And after this epoch is finished, we are going to distribute the rewards that were obtained in this epoch, and they are going to be distributed among the stakeholders that participated as slot leaders in this epoch. And it is going to be also proportional to the stake they have, and proportional to the amount of work they do for the protocol, meaning the amount of slots they were active on producing blocks. Okay? Where the rewards come from? Well, they come from the transaction fees that every transaction pays, and a small part is added coming from the funds from the ADA reserve. So it is very straightforward. And we mentioned before a little bit about the decentralization problem of the Bitcoin network, and Ouroboros, or indeed the implementation of the Ouroboros protocol, solves it very beautifully with a very simple rule. After a certain threshold, let's say 1%, rewards become constant. So there is no more growing of those rewards. So if the threshold were set to 1%, a stake pool that had the representation of 2% of the aggregated stake, would get the same rewards as one that has the 1%. Okay, so this would make this particular stake pool a little bit less attractive, because it wouldn't be maximizing the rewards for the stakeholders that have delegated to it. Okay, so it's very likely that in this scenario some of those stakeholders will be delegating to another stake pool that was more competitive, because it was providing more rewards, one-to-one in the rewards. Okay, So this is how the Ouroboros protocol deals with the decentralization issue. So this guarantees that the protocol will not become centralized in the future. And then we have this amazing functionality. Is the new chain selection rule, and it deals with a very well-known problem with the proof-of-stake algorithms that is known as the long-range attack. And it works like this. Remember, the first thing you have to do when you want to participate in the protocol is to synchronize with the network. But what happens if when you are trying to synchronize, you face a fork? Like this one. Just a quick parenthesis. In Bitcoin, this chain selection rule is very straightforward. You always pick the longest chain, because the longest chain will have the more difficulty aggregated into it. There is no way an adversary, a malicious player, can produce a chain that has as much difficulty as a real chain, as the good chain. So in Bitcoin, this problem is kind of simple to solve. You always pick the longest chain. But in the proof-of-stakes algorithm, there is this attack that is known as long-range attack, meaning that an adversary, a malicious player, can be silently producing a long chain that forks way in the past and producing a very, very, very long chain. And when you are trying to synchronize, you might be confused because you are presented perhaps an even longer chain than the real one. So the longest chain rule no longer works efficiently. We have to fine-tune this rule. And what Ouroboros Genesis does is tweak this rule in a beautiful and elegant manner. What they do is, okay, if when you are trying to synchronize and you are presented a fork, you are going to choose the longest chain as long as in the following slots to the fork, that chain has the more participants on it, has the more participations, has the more transactions, and is the more denser. Okay? So an adversary will never be able to produce a chain that has that amount of participation. He might be producing a very long chain, but not with the same amount of participation, with the same amount of transactions, with the same dynamics of the real chain or the good chain. And this process is known as bootstrapping from Genesis, because all you need is a copy of the Genesis block, and you are going to be able to synchronize with the correct blockchain every time. And well, this is how this protocol works. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a better understanding of how this protocol works. And again, feel free, please, to come here to the IOHK website and take a look on yourself to the papers. You can see the Ouroboros Genesis here, the Ouroboros Praos, and the Ouroboros Classic, let's say. The one what we are waiting for, the paper that we are expecting to come soon, is called Ouroboros Chronos. Ouroboros Chronos will be talking exactly about this particular feature of the global clock, and that will allow us to be time aware when we synchronize, when we register to the network. So, well, this is it. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have a more clear understanding of how this protocol works. And if you have any comments, please leave them below. I'm going to be trying to answer questions. And please, if you think I made any mistake, please also let me know. And, well, this is it. See you in another video. Bye-bye.